Hey everybody, Ash here with Gents, back with another fragrance review. It's been about a week since I filmed my last fragrance review video. Feels like it's been forever. Today we're taking a look at a fragrance from the house of Scentstory. It's 24 Elixir Rise of the Superb. This was sent to me for review by fragrancebuy.ca. Like usual, gonna keep it 100 with you. For the older guys out there, when I say keep it 100, that means I'm gonna tell you what I think about it and not lie to you. We're gonna go over the presentation on this one. I'm gonna talk about the fragrance, let you know what I like, what I don't like about it, whether you should check this out or not, and also slip in a nice code for you so you can save a little money. But you're gonna have to be fast because I got this video out a little bit late, so the code's only good for a couple weeks from now. But I technically did mention the code on This Week in Fragrance, my last video that I did for that. So if you watched that video, you already have the code. That's why you gotta watch the videos, that way you're on top of things. All right guys, let's go ahead and jump into this 24 Elixir Rise of the Superb. Alright guys, let's check out this presentation. Here you got the box with the name of the fragrance, size and concentration down there at the bottom. There's nothing doing on the sides or the top of this one. On the back you have Rise of the Superb with this saying. Let me read that for you. I reached the lake at this special moment, seconds before the sun rises, when everything feels possible. On the bottom you've got the ingredient information, and the batch code is printed on the box over here on the side. Box opens up like so, has kind of a velvet foam interior, if you can make that out, and the bottle sits inside like so. And here we have the bottle. It's got a nice coloration to it. You can see there, 24, and it has this metal plaque that kind of wraps around the glass bottle. It does look nice. On the bottom there, you can see 100 milliliter size, and then Fox, because this is based off of 24, the television show. The cap does click into place, and you can see there on the top of the cap, it says 24. Now, one thing that I have noticed about this bottle, which is a little bit troubling, is this bottle seems to have an issue with the atomizer. This has happened on a number of bottles that I've owned in the past, but it does get annoying. And what happens is when you spray this, like let's say you hit yourself with 5-6 sprays of this, there's a possibility there's going to be some that leaks out from underneath the collar. And let me go ahead and give you a look at that. I sprayed this on my hand 2 times before I did this video. Now here's the top of the bottle, and hopefully you can make, yeah, right there. It has fragrance that is leaking out from underneath the collar, right here. So obviously that is not good, because that means that this is not crimped down very well, and that's going to be an issue. The more you spray this, the more it's going to leak out from underneath here. Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton I can say about that. That's just a flaw in this bottle. And that's not specific to Scentstory or anything like that. I've had a number of bottles from different houses, different brands that have had that issue over the years. Nevertheless, though, it's not great. And then on the bottom, you've got your sticker with badge code right there. There we go, presentation for 24 Elixir Rise of the Superb. It is a nice presentation. I think this is a step up from the other presentations that I've had from them in the past. The only issue that I have here is the leakage from this bottle. I've talked about Scentstory on my channel a number of times. It's usually been 24 Gold, which looks like this, and you can actually pick that up on fragrancebuy.ca as well for really cheap, honestly. And I've also reviewed 24 Ice Gold, which is a nice fragrance as well. I've also sampled from the 24 Elixir series in the past, but I haven't purchased any of them as of yet. So this is my first foray into the Elixir line of fragrances by Scentstory. I actually covered this on This Week in Fragrance, I believe beginning of February. I did a video and this was on there, so I covered this right before it came out, and here we are. Now we've got it. Now with those general thoughts of Scentstory and 24 and everything out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this one. Off the top, this has got a slight medicinal feeling. It's got a heavy dose of wormwood and artemisia. Technically bergamot and orange are notes in the opening, in the top, but they don't come through very strongly to me. You get a little bit of the orange, but it's not really juicy or fresh or anything like that, and it gets swallowed up by the artemisia off the top. So that bitter, herbaceous, green artemisia / wormwood note in the opening, that is much more powerful than the 2 citrus notes in the opening. The 2 citrus notes there are kind of trying to counterbalance the artemisia, but it doesn't really succeed. It's heavy and dense in the opening and definitely powdery off the top. There's a solid amount of powder, and that continues all the way through to the mid. Now, one thing that this reminds me of after about 5 minutes and into the mid is wet wipes, and I'm not trying to say that in like a really hateful way or disparaging way. It just reminds me a bit of wet wipes or baby wipes, whatever you want to call it. It's this really powdery geranium and then the heavy Artemisia / wormwood in the opening with that little tiny touch of a dense citrus. It all just combines and ends up smelling like wet wipes a little bit off my skin. Now, not the exact same, but close enough that when I smell it with just the tiniest touch of imagination, I could imagine opening up wet wipes and pulling them out to, you know, use wet wipes for what they're used for. Now, to be fair, the geranium is semi-fresh, but it's just the Artemisia / wormwood, like I keep saying, is really not fresh. So those two clash a little bit. So into the mid, you have those two notes kind of going at it a little bit. And as well, in the mid, there's a chili pepper note. And I was hoping that that would provide like a big punch of spice, you know, a big kick, maybe a zing, you know, something that kind of awakens the senses a little bit, but not really. I do get a touch of that chili pepper, but it's not strong enough to really liven up the fragrance, at least to me. So through the mid, off my skin, it remains powdery, dense, heavy, and floral. I do not get enough spice off my skin to offset that geranium and Artemisia combo that's so strong and so prominent through the opening and the mid off my skin. Now, to be completely fair, after about 45 minutes, Scentstory 24 Elixir Rise of the Superb becomes much more enjoyable. At this point, the Artemisia starts to chill out. It's not as prominent, it's not as strong, not as in your face, and you do start to pick up a little bit more spice at that point. That powdery facet that you get, that powdery floral feeling, it starts to tone down a little bit too, which is a positive. And you start to get a little bit of warmth and sweetness from amber, but the amber note that's here is not super strong off my skin. And truthfully, even with the amber there in the base, once it hits the dry down, it just feels like something's missing. It feels like there's just not enough depth in the fragrance. It feels like there's a hole there that needs to be plugged with an accord or a note. I'm not necessarily saying I would know which one would fit best there, but when you smell it, it just feels like there should be something else. It feels like there should be a strong base note providing a floor for the fragrance and the dry down. The amber there is the most prominent base note, at least to my nose, and it's not really strong enough or interesting or prominent enough to pull it off. There's also vetiver in the base here as well, but the vetiver that's used in this fragrance comes across a little bit tame. The earthiness, woodiness, or grassiness that you might associate with vetiver most often, don't really get too much of that. So honestly, off my skin, just something that I want to smell, I don't really like the opening or the mid. If I were to go into a store, for example, and spray this on, I would not buy it. And I don't mean that to disparage the brand. Like I said, I've got 24 Gold, 24 Ice Gold, and I like both of those a lot. But if I sprayed this on in a store, there's a 0% chance I'd be walking out of the store with it. About 2 hours in, the projection is fairly weak at that point. It's not really projecting out like a monster anymore. And it's basically just an inoffensive, warm, sweet amber with remnants of vetiver and touches of geranium. And also just the smallest amount of that chili from the mid. So like I just said, essentially the opening in the mid I don't really like. After an hour in, once the Artemisia and the geranium combo tones down, it becomes more pleasant to smell. It's nicer at that point, but it's not something that's good enough that's gonna make me overlook the opening in the mid that I really don't like. Now let's talk about performance. The projection on this initially is very, very strong. Through the opening into the mid, 24 Elixir Rise of the Superb has very strong projection, pushes out very far, and it's gonna have you with a very powerful scent cloud as you move around. Like I said though, about 2 hours in, the projection is fairly weak. So at that point, it's sitting closer to your skin. I wouldn't say it's a complete skin scent. It's not something that you have to put your nose directly next to your skin to smell, but it's toned down significantly from what it is in the first hour and a half or so. Longevity on this one is very good as well, 8+ hours without issue. Again, your first couple hours is when it's gonna be projecting the most, but then you're gonna get some solid longevity out of that even after it tones down. I had my wife check this one out as well. In the opening, she said that it was too strong. She said that it was really powdery and floral, and that it was just too strong for her. She didn't really care for the opening. And then once it hit the dry down, she said it smelled a little bit better, but she said, quote, "It's not anything special. Not gonna be something I can recommend." It's selling for about $50 right now, And in that price range, there's a lot of stuff that you can get that's gonna be better. Now this is unique smelling, so it does have that going for it. It does not smell like other things out there. For me though, the heavy Artemisia, geranium, floral, powdery feel is not offset by other things to kind of help that be balanced. It has chili pepper as a note with spice, so you would think maybe that would counterbalance, but it's not strong. And then in the opening, you've got two different citruses that you would think would maybe lend kind of a juicy, fresh pop to the opening, but then the citruses come across more dense, they don't come across fresh, they don't come across juicy, they don't really provide any brightness. Yeah, I mean, I'll just spray it on here, let it settle for a second. Yeah, like I said at the beginning of the review, you've got about 5 minutes there before it starts turning into a really powdery fragrance. And the first 5 minutes, the citrus is more noticeable. But even when that citrus is very noticeable, it doesn't smell great to me. This is a fragrance that I was interested in, giving the note breakdown, so I'm glad that I did get to sample it. But again, guys, it is what it is. I think that realistically for most of you guys out there, this one is gonna be a no-go. Now, if this does sound interesting to you and you would be interested in some Artemisia, geranium, you know, with a powdery feel and an amber dry down, do check it out. As far as when you would wear this, I would say more in the cooler weather. It's gonna be more of a fall and winter and maybe early spring type fragrance. I wouldn't wear it when it starts to heat up, you know, in late spring or summer. Wouldn't be something I'd want to go for. As far as day or night goes, it does lean a little bit more toward a nighttime type fragrance, but you could wear it in either one. And if I were going to put an age range on this, I would say younger guys are definitely going to like this less than older guys, at least in my opinion. Okay guys, it's going to do it for 24 Elixir Rise of the Superb. Now the code, it is Gents, just Gents right here. That's gonna get you free shipping on any purchase over $55 US on fragrancebuy.ca. So save yourself some money if you're looking to buy any fragrances from that website. They do actually have a ton of new releases there that you may wanna check out. They also have a lot of rare gems. They get discontinued fragrances in fairly often. So go ahead and give them a look. They've got a lot of good stuff on there. And I have actually used them for personal purchases a number of times in the past, and I've always been pleased. A couple other things just to touch about on that website really quickly in case you're unaware, because I know a lot of you haven't used that website. They have a loyalty program. Just go to the tab on their website that has more information on it. You can use their loyalty program to get free shipping, to get $5 off your order, to get 10% off your order, a number of different things. And also, if you're ordering from the US, understand that fragrancebuy.ca is in Canada. They ship to the United States once per week on Mondays. All right, guys, if you've smelled this one, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys again next time with another review. See you guys.